Okay, we are recording. Thank you for the reminder, Janine. All right, so we have 15 folks here all together. I will go ahead and get us started. Thank you all for joining us as part of UCF's Study Abroad Week and International Education Week across the country. Really happy that you've joined us to chat about Japan. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm just going to keep admitting folks as they join. So during the session, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I won't be monitoring that while I'm speaking, but we can absolutely talk about those afterwards. And then if you just have a super duper burning question during the session, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt. That's totally fine. And if I could ask the UCF staff that's joined us, if you see any chats during the presentation that you think would be nice to address in the midst of the session, feel free to interrupt me. That's totally fine as well. So I'm going to present here. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about CIS abroad programs in where else? In Japan. We have programs in Tokyo and Kyoto. I'm looking forward to telling you about them. My name is Kent Moore, Director of University Relations and Custom Programs here at CIS Abroad. It might look like I'm in Tokyo right now. I'm actually coming to you from North Carolina, and CIS Abroad itself is based in Massachusetts. So we're making this an East Coast affair today. So brief introduction. To me, that's me when I was an undergrad studying abroad in Southeast Asia. Had a lot more hair back then, but I've been with CIS Abroad since 2015, and then have international experiences in different parts of Asia and different parts of Europe. I want to come clean and say that I personally have not been to Japan yet. I know a bit about our programs there, and I hopefully well qualified to tell you about them, but there may be folks joining us today that are more familiar with Japan than I am. In fact, I'm sure of it. So if you have insights, feel free to chime in. We'd love to hear them. Okay, so first of all, before we jump into talking about programming, I really want to just touch on the big elephant in the room, the pandemic. Obviously, it's impacting all aspects of our lives, and really study abroad is one of those. So I want to just provide some information about how CIS Abroad is approaching international travel and international programming during this rather exceptional time. And you'll find a lot of information on our website about this if you really want to dig into it. But essentially what we're doing is taking our normally rather large program portfolio of over 100 programs around the country each year, and really narrowing that down to locations where we feel confident in three areas. One is obviously health and safety. We are only running programs in locations where we feel confident in the response in that country, and then the health and safety protocols that our on-site partners are putting in place to keep students safe. The other big factor is academics. So we're only sending students currently to locations where we know that if for some reason the program itself was interrupted for COVID reasons or whatever reason, students will be able to complete their coursework remotely and gain credit for that experience. And then the other big one is financial. So we're only running programs in locations where we know we have a lot of flexibility with refund policies. So what we've put in place for spring 2021 is a refund policy wherein students can expect a full 100% refund up to 22 days before their program begins. And I imagine that will stay in place for future terms as well. But you can always find the latest information on our refund policy, which is linked in the document or in this presentation. It's also easily searchable on our website. So just rest assured we're taking the pandemic very seriously. Our risk management team is constantly, looking at what's happening in each country. And we have a site-specific risk management plan for Japan, as well as locations around the world that you can access as well. Okay, so why CIS Abroad? Just some general information. FYI, the acronym there is Center for International Studies Abroad. Sometimes students think it's computer information system. So if you're a computer science student, just know while we do have programs that will work for you academically, that's not what our acronym stands for. Okay, so here are just some of the program models that we offer. January term, summer abroad, internships, and that really encompasses a whole range of experiential learning programs, which I'll talk about. Semester study abroad, and then new this year, virtual programs as well. So a few things that I think stand out about CIS. Like I said, I've been with the organization for about 5 years now, so I have a pretty good sense of what makes our program special. And for me, the number one thing is affordability. I know that when I was a student studying abroad in different parts of the world, I could not have done so if it weren't for affordable programs. So we work really hard to make sure that our programs are accessible from a financial perspective. Number two is support. One thing I really love about our program model is that it allows for a lot of independence, but also a lot of support from our on-site staff. So you're taking classes with locals, you're living in probably maybe like a local apartment. So you have a lot of independence as a student on site on our programs, but also there's that person there, our site director, to lead you on excursions, cultural activities. They literally pick you up at the airport when you arrive. So it's a really nice balance, I think, of support. And then thirdly is immersion. Cultural immersion is actually absolutely fundamental to our programs. We have what we call our La Vida Local cultural curriculum. And this involves not only the local, regional, and sometimes international excursions that we take students on our programs, but also just activities on a weekly or bi-weekly basis that are facilitated by our on-site staff. And then I always like to plug, just shamelessly plug some recent awards we've won for various things in the field of international education from websites like goabroad.com and gooverseas.com, which if you have not, if you're a student and you haven't visited these resources, I highly recommend checking them out. They have a lot of great content. You can find program ratings, hear from other students, really great blog content as well. Definitely look into that. All right, so just kind of focusing in on Asia. Like I said, we have programs all around the world in 22 countries, but looking at Asia itself, we have programs in 4 countries in East and Southeast Asia, and actually 17 programs across those 4 countries. But today we are focusing on Japan. So I want to play a quick video. This was actually filmed just less than 2 weeks ago by our site director, Jeff Sending in Japan, we don't have students currently on site in Japan, but we wanted to reach out to Jeff and say, just take some video around the city of Tokyo where he lives and get a sense of what life is like currently there. So this shouldn't take too long, just a quick video here.
It's a good time to come to Japan. Everything is open. Cafes, restaurants, historical sites, cultural centers, and it's not so crowded as before.
All right, so just a quick look at life currently in Tokyo. I have heard from a friend living in Japan that it's actually an interesting time to be there in that it's so much less crowded than it has been in the past, especially as a person visiting cultural sites. So you can actually visit the UNESCO World Heritage sites and things like that, and not encounter crazy long lines like you might have this time last year, which is interesting. Oops, don't want to play that again. Okay, so just some basic information about Japan. It's a nation of almost 7,000 islands. Has one of the largest life expectancies in the world. It's also one of the safest countries in the world. Um, and obviously, if you're at this session, you probably know that it was meant to host the 2020 Summer Olympic Games, which have been moved to next summer. Um, a couple of things that our students really enjoy about the country is the food. That's certainly what would get me. One thing that I've always found fascinating about Japan when I hear about people visiting is the vending machines that you find and how you can actually get incredible food out of vending machines all over the country, and not just food, like clothes, electronics, shoes, all sorts of things. I think that is just really fascinating to me for some reason. Beautiful nature as well as bustling cities, obviously, um, and I really like that our programs are mixed between Kyoto, which is kind of a more traditional city, has so many shrines and traditional architecture, and then obviously the huge city of Tokyo, and how modern it is, and just the contrast there. So again, what makes it exciting? Our students really get into kind of the pop culture aspect. So looking at manga and anime. Um, in the past, students have had experiences where they participate in street fashion, so Harajuku and things like that, which I don't know a ton about, but I'm learning, and it's really interesting. Different types of um, you sushi, noodle bars, ramen places that are just fantastic. Unique sports as well, like sumo, and incredible history. And then really just traveling around Japan. Obviously, it's a pretty accessible place to travel, particularly with the train system, which is super fast. Students often take advantage of that with a rail pass, so that's a tip we always like to share. Um, and really, in the build up to our programs, we always have a pre-departure orientation where we go over a lot of things around, practically how to navigate the country that you're visiting. And what I always hear from our program coordinators for Japan is that it's not the most affordable country in the world, but it can be very inexpensive if you follow a few guidelines and know a few kind of insider tips. So something to keep in mind if you're budget conscious. So here are the locations of all of our programs. I did this kind of in a little grid, so you can see the programs in Tokyo on the left, and then the program in Kyoto on the right, and broken up between summer and semester terms. So obviously far more programs in Tokyo. We have 2 semester programs there, both in and around the city center of Tokyo, different parts of the city. And then summer programs ranging from traditional study abroad to intern abroad, and even a TEFL program. And if you're not familiar with that acronym, that's teaching English as a foreign language. So if you're interested at all in having classroom experience and having the ability to work in a location, I would recommend looking into the intern in Tokyo or the TEFL in Tokyo programs. So I wanted to, that's a lot of programs. I can't touch on the details of all of them, but I did want to highlight a few of my favorites. So the first one up is Semester in Japan in Kyoto at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. We call it CUFS for short. I think colloquially it is known as Kyoto Gaidai. So students here take 4 to 5 classes, gain a full range of credits for the semester abroad. And what CUFS is really known for is language learning. So a lot of the Japanese students that are there are learning international languages. Um, oops, I think someone's waiting to come in. I just let them in. All right. So yeah, different languages are being learned all over campus, and the students from the U.S. that study at CUFS are really focused on language learning typically. And they actually have 11 levels of Japanese that you can take, as well as other subject areas. If someone is unmuted, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself, getting a little feedback, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then another popular course is Japanese Culture and Society. So these are different, these kind of dive deeply into different aspects of Japanese culture, from calligraphy, flower arrangement, literature, and things like that. And another thing that students really appreciate about this program is the low cost of living in Kyoto. So this program really, if you find yourself studying Japanese and you really want to dive into language and culture, this is a solid option. I don't have a slide for our other programs at Toyo University and Meiji Gakuin University, but if you're looking into a semester-long experience where you would like to take maybe business courses or computer science coursework or humanities, I would look into those other programs in Tokyo. And I can show you how to find information about the courses in each of those. One other thing to keep in mind about semesters, if you're planning to spend a semester in Japan, the academic calendar in Japan doesn't align perfectly with the US academic calendar. So just keep that in mind. I think most students tend to find it a little bit easier to study abroad in the fall, the American fall, because the semesters typically well, they're roughly adjacent to the US calendar. But then there's a larger break during the US winter, and then Japanese students will typically go back, I think in March usually, and then the semester will run into the summer. So just keep that in mind as you're planning your experience abroad. So another program I wanted to point out, our Summer in Tokyo program at Seisen University. This has been the most popular program for UCF students in the past few years, not just in Japan, but anywhere in the world. UCF students really seem to love this option. And I can see why. It's a really nice in that it's super flexible. So there are 3 sessions over the course of the summer. So you can either spend 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks. And you take 1 to 3 courses, depending on how many terms or how many sessions you participate in. The university itself is really unique. It's on the grounds of a former samurai mansion, which I always think is really cool. I would love to see that myself. But it's also really close into the heart of Tokyo. So you have like access to, the really busy areas of the city, but also this kind of peaceful, leafy campus environment as well. So students, we really pack in a lot of excursions during the summer. So students participate in a tea ceremony. They go to do a temple and shrine visit. And our site director, Jeff, who you heard from, arranges all this and leads these excursions. The focus here, again, is on language and culture. So your course selections are very simple for this program. You're either taking a Japanese language course or a global citizenship cross-cultural studies course. So that's, it's pretty plain what your options are. So again, if you're studying Japanese, or you would like to focus in on kind of this this idea of global citizenship, of a humanities / more of a social science course, I would say, this program could be a good option. And one neat aspect to this is that, as I mentioned a second ago, the spring semester in Japan runs into the summer, or what we would consider the summer here. So you're actually going to have Japanese students on site with you during the program. And there's always a lot of cultural exchange happening back and forth, which is always great to see. Okay, and then the last program I really wanted to touch on, and we can talk about others after this, but I wanted to highlight a semester program, a summer option, and then one of our experiential learning programs. And that one is our Intern in Japan program. And this is brand new. It was meant to run for the first time in summer 2020, but was obviously canceled due to COVID. But it will be going forward a 6-week summer program based in Tokyo, not in Kyoto. You can see the tentative dates here from mid-June to late July. And you can see here the customized internship placement fields. Typically how we do intern abroad programs is that we will have a Skype interview with each person who applies for the program. And during that Skype interview, we really want to understand what are your goals for after college, for your career going forward? What do you want to gain experience in? What type of work environment do you think you'd thrive in? And what are your pre-existing skills? And based on all that information, we actually take that out to our network of internship host organizations and make a match based on that. So you're really matched based on the needs of the host organization for an intern, and also based on what you'd like to get out of the experience. So in Japan, we can accommodate students who are looking for anything in film and television. IT and computer systems is a really popular one, or it was going to be this past year, but I imagine it will be again going forward. Any sort of business internship, so looking at marketing, entrepreneurship, things like that, maybe some hospitality as well, graphic design, and then education. So if you see yourself, if you'd like to gain experience in a classroom setting, that's something we can facilitate in Japan. And I always make the distinction here about language. Students who are maybe worried about not having sufficient Japanese skills don't need to worry, because all of our placements, the default language is English for these. Obviously, if you know some Japanese, that will kind of help maybe open up the possibilities into other areas and more in-depth internships. But we're happy to place students with no Japanese experience. And then, yeah, that's really all I wanted to cover on this program. Really, the type of student who should pursue this program, I think, is one who is maybe in the second half of their college career, or is about to be, and really looking at what they want to do after college, and building their CV, building their resume, starting to create a professional network, and gaining experience in a field. It's really an opportunity to kind of try on a professional field in a real life setting. We're actually doing real work, real project-based work for your host organization. And then this slide just kind of outlines a couple of the past excursions that we've had in Japan, organized by Jeff. Obviously, these vary from year to year, especially during COVID. We have to be a little bit careful about where we take students and how we do things. So expect that there might be some variations, of course. But I know Jeff loves taking students to the Shinjuku area. They do a walking tour and go to an observation deck. And then there's always karaoke. Jeff is a big karaoke fan, which is obviously big in a lot of parts of Asia, but Japan in particular. Visiting Mount Fuji, maybe taking in a baseball game if that's possible at the time. So a lot of neat opportunities to kind of connect with the local culture and get out and meet folks. And then one kind of programmatic add-on I wanted to talk about. This is a rather unique opportunity that you might not find on a lot of other programs, but for our Summer in Japan programs, either at Seisen University or at JF Oberlin University, and for our spring semester program participants, there's the option to add on what we call our Train to Teach edition. And essentially what this is, it's a 6-week program. It's all about being able to teach English in a foreign setting. So it's really going through, as it says here, the theory and practice of teaching English in these countries. So it's a three-step or three-stage program. You actually get a lot of interpersonal time with local students who are learning English. It's, as it says here, 34 hours of teaching experience. So you get, it's almost like a practicum. If you're familiar with that concept as an education major. And you gain a pre-TESOL certificate once you complete the program. And if any of you are familiar with the JET program, if you're interested in pursuing language teaching, this is almost kind of a preparatory step. So I would recommend looking into this if you at all considering the JET. And it's really affordable. I think it's under $2,000 to add on this program, and that includes housing and the pre-TESOL certificate and things like that, in addition to the classroom experience as well. All right, so looking at just ways that you can locate programs that are going to be a good fit for your major or for your course of study. I've taken some screenshots on the right-hand side here. You'll see on our website, and I can show you this after the presentation is finished, but on the right-hand side here, you'll see find a program, and then you can go down to academic major and really dial in on programs that are going to be a good fit for you academically. So we have dozens and dozens of academic areas. So you can, as you can see in a screenshot here, dial in and click yours, and then it will automatically update the list of programs that are a good fit. And you can do that for programs around the world, or you can really hone in and look at just programs in Japan. I tend to find that students who are interested in Japan are not interested in going to other places. It's like Japan or bust. And I love the passion. I love the serious dedication to one country and exploring one culture. For some reason, Japan is like that more than any other, I find, which is always really interesting to me. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover on this slide. Just know that that's a resource. It's a pretty powerful tool, and I recommend using that as you do your research. So focusing in on funding now, first of all, I wanted to highlight what is included in a CIS Abroad program fee. We like to keep things really simple with our program fees, so you'll find one fee, and it includes everything you see here. So everything from housing, tuition, insurance, excursions, all of that stuff. The only things that it does not include are your flight to arrive in your host country, and then meals on site. And then obviously any additional personal money and spending money in travel funds as well. And then here's some information about our financial aid process. This is a nice little video you can find on our YouTube channel. I won't play it here, but it's just going through the process of using financial aid. On our website, you'll find access to scholarships and grants. I always recommend checking these out, and I also always recommend looking into our promo codes. So you'll, from time to time, see different promo codes pop up. One that is always there is bring a friend. So if there are two of you on the call that would like to travel together, you can use this promo code and save some funds off of your program fee. So yeah, always check out various types of funding opportunities, and the UCF Education Abroad Office can obviously tell you about UCF specific funding as well as national scholarships and things like that. Okay, so I'm getting close to the end here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about process. How do you go about applying for a program and things like that? I've broken it down into 3 really basic steps. Number 1 is just searching for programs that interest you. Maybe it's the CUFS program that I talked about first, or another option. Actually, one of the programs I didn't mention is our Summer in Asia program. It's actually a multi-country program between Japan and South Korea, and that program is always really popular. It spends, I think, 2 weeks in Tokyo and then 3 weeks in Seoul, South Korea. So whatever it is, looking, just doing some interests or some research into the programs that interest you, and then speaking with your study abroad staff at your home institution, and then you'll begin your application. And typically how this works is that you'll have an application with UCF, but then also with CIS Abroad. And when you're starting your CIS application, you can always just look for this button on our website, and that's how you get started. And then this page is really just pointing you towards our YouTube channel that I mentioned a couple times. It's actually got some really great content, and this is one of the resources that I like to point students towards. It's our How It Works video series, just to take you through every step of that application process. If that seems daunting, to you, this is just kind of a guide for you as you navigate that. And then I will leave this slide up. This is just various ways that you can access our advising team. So the QR code will take you to a form on our website. You can always text us. There's a chat feature on our website that I don't think is listed here that I would recommend checking out. And then on the bottom, I don't do all the social medias, but I've heard that our Instagram is very good. So definitely look into that. But now I'd really like to open it up to all of you. If you have questions, I'm going to pull up the chat feature here and see if anyone has dropped questions in. Also, if you'd like to unmute yourself, please feel free. We're all friends here, and I'd love to get your questions.
Hi, Kent. This is Kristen from UCF Abroad. I just went ahead and answered some of the questions I could in the chat for you, so you might see some of them answered already.
Okay, thank you.
One of them I couldn't answer was from Stacy. She was asking about science or medical-based internships. I wasn't sure what kind of placements you have in Japan for those.
Yeah, that's a good question, and thank you for taking care of that, Kristen. I think for science, medical, any sort of health internship, these are not typically available for us in Japan. They might become so in the future because I mentioned our Intern in Japan program is relatively new. In more established internship program locations like Australia for us, or actually in Thailand, we have some medical type placements, and those in the science field that kind of border on research placements, especially in Australia. So unfortunately not currently in Japan, but perhaps in other countries if you're flexible on location.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Just scanning through here. Do you have to be an undergraduate student to participate in the intern program? No, we have had graduate students participate in our internship program. So if that interests you, feel free to get in touch with our team. We can discuss, what might be a good placement for you. Okay, yeah, I think I got all of those with Kristen's help. But if you have other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm gonna just pull up the CIS Abroad website and show you how you can locate all the programs in Japan. So to get here, I've just gone to find a program, locations, and then selected Japan. And then I can dial in here and look at, say I'm a business major and I want to see, I'll just click all of business, but you could really focus in on finance or management, marketing, whatever it is. So you can see that all these programs could be a good fit for business students. And I will show you, let's just click on this semester in Tokyo program at Toyo University. I would say alongside our CUFS program in Kyoto, this is the other most popular semester length program in Japan. So here I'm on the program page. I always like to point students towards this academics tab. If you scroll down to that, go a little bit further, you can click choose your courses. And actually above this, you'll see the academic areas offered by the institution. Those areas that have 3 to 7 classes, and those areas that have 8 or more classes available. So you can see information. This will be custom for each program page that you land on. So there's information about Japanese language courses. But if you want to actually see a list of all the courses that are available, there's always a link here, and it links out to the actual institution's webpage where it lists all the classes that you can take. So if you're really getting serious about selecting a program and preparing to apply, this is where I really recommend you go, because once you've accessed this, you can do a little research on your own, and just with your own knowledge of what classes you need to take going forward to complete your degree at UCF, you can start jotting down, ooh, I'd like to take this or that. And then from there, you meet with your academic advisor, as well as the study abroad staff at UCF, and talk through, how would this course transfer back, and establish those pre-approvals before you go. And that way, when your transcript comes back from Japan, everything will be set up, and you'll be good to go. I want to touch on our policies for programming during the pandemic. As I mentioned, for spring 2021, we've really focused in and narrowed our portfolio of programs around the world. So for spring, the only program that we're offering is the program at Toyo University in Tokyo. This is for a number of reasons, but really we're just trying to focus in on what program is going to be the best for the most students, and really trying to have a limited number of options so we can pay as close attention to this program, the regulations around not only entering Japan, but also being on campus and things like that, as possible. So what I expect to see, and it's really too early to say what programs are going to be available for summer 2021, fall 2021 and beyond. But what I expect to happen is that we'll start to see more programs opening up for these terms. So I spoke to our program coordinator for Japan and just before this, and he mentioned that we'd really like to see our Kyoto University of Foreign Studies program open up for fall 2021, and we'll see about the Meiji Gakuin program as well. And then for summer, we have two main study programs. One is at Seisen that I talked about, and the other one is at JF Oberlin University, which is a fairly similar program, really focused on language and culture, perhaps with a few more course options, I think, but really central. It's actually in the Shinjuku area of Tokyo. I expect that these programs will be open. One program that we might not be able to run, depending on the regulations around travel in the region, is summer in Asia, that so many students were excited about in summer 2020, because it starts in Tokyo and then goes to Seoul. There's some concern about what if quarantine period is necessary and things like that. So keep an eye on it. We don't know that for sure, but we're expecting that we might have to wait until 2022 for that program. But it should be an option after 2021 for sure. Does anyone have any questions that have come up? Just open the chat here. Okay, Stacy asks, would I be able to take all or the majority of my classes abroad, or would I be able to take some abroad and some at my home institution? That's an interesting question. Kristen, if you're still on, would you mind speaking to that question?
Yeah, so it depends on what your major is, Stacy, because we would want to make sure that there are classes that you would be able to fill abroad for the program. And I'm guessing that since UCF doesn't have like a Japanese major, that you would have other classes you need. And I know in Japan that can be a little bit challenging to do like all of your classes. I'm not sure if you mean like your entire semester's worth or like for your entire major, but that's kind of the reason most students will just do like one semester or they'll just do the summer because of most of their classes would need to be taken at UCF.
Okay. Thank you for stepping in on that one. Awesome. And then Lorenzo asked about study plus internship program in one semester. That's a really good question. It is possible in certain locations around the world. For example, we offer that in Barcelona, in London, I think in Florence, Italy, but it's not an option currently in Japan. One thing that you could do that I touched on during the presentation was our spring semester program. If you participate in any spring semester program, say in like 2022, then you could add on the Train to Teach program, which is sort of like an internship. If you're interested at all in teaching English or having classroom experience, that could potentially be a way to kind of add on to that. But no, we don't have a traditional study intern program in Japan right now. While we're on the subject of internships, though, I did want to go to our intern program page and just show you where you can see sample placements that students have had in the past. So this is a really nice way to just see, you know, what students have done, what their experience was like. They're pretty brief little explanations, just meant to give you an idea of the type of internship placement that you might have access to. So you can see here internship placements, and you can toggle between the different areas. So for education, teacher assistant, language support intern at an adult learning center. For film and television, looking at video editing, production intern, IT and computer systems, robotics, developer. So yeah, like I said, these are just meant to give you an idea of what students have done in the past. But if you're at all thinking about an internship, feel free to let our team know. You can always reach out to us and we can set up that initial Skype interview that I mentioned and talk through, you know, how, if we think we'd be able to place you based on your interests. And once you're accepted to our internship programs, we guarantee that we'll have a placement for you in one of your top 2 fields. And then you'll have an internship, a second interview with the actual host organization abroad, just to make sure that it's the right fit and everyone feels, you know, happy going into the experience. Cool. Any other questions that are coming to mind? If you're graduating next spring, would you be able to have an internship? So we have had students after graduating in May, for example, pursue an internship with us abroad in that summer afterwards, just to kind of bridge the gap between their undergraduate experience and whatever might come next. So that is an option. We'd be happy to work with you on that for sure. While we're on interns, I'll just briefly plug our virtual internship programs. If you all have heard of these, this is a new thing in 2020, one of the gifts of the pandemic. But virtual internships kind of mirror the on-site experience in allowing students to have an actual internship placement that's project-based, where you can work, again, 15 to 30, 35 hours per week. There's some flexibility in that depending on what you'd like. And really, just gain experience in your field in a remote setting. I personally have worked remotely for 5 years, as I mentioned, not being in my organization's home base. And I think more and more employers are going to be looking towards job candidates with remote work experience. So something to look into. You can always find those programs here under virtual internships. And you can do those during the summer or during the academic semester and just kind of do it alongside your regular coursework. Janine asks, after graduating college internship. Yeah, so like I mentioned to the other question, if you're interested in doing an internship abroad with us after you graduate, there's the potential for that. Yeah, we can work with that. I think only in one of our internship locations in Spain, you have to be enrolled at an undergraduate institution. But for the rest of our locations, you don't have to be enrolled at a US college. So we're happy to.
I also wanted to just add on that I think we did have one student who did that with you after graduation, but typically our office doesn't recommend it just because you can't like earn the credits if you're graduated already. And I think this might have like financial aid implications. So if students need that to apply, it could be like an expense issue.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, you'll want to look into all the implications of credit transfer and then financial aid. By the way, if you're looking at, if you're curious about what our program fees are, let me just visit our CUFS program. You'll always find program fees at the very bottom of the program page. And you also find dates here. And typically, we don't have our dates for fall up yet, fall 2021, I don't think. Oh, I just lied. We absolutely do. So they're estimated dates. So you can find here the application deadline. So for fall 21, it's coming up April 1st. So you still have time to look into these. And then the program dates here. And then our program fees. And typically these don't vary all that much from semester to semester. So you can start to kind of create a budget. And you can see here, I think this program was one that we were going to offer originally in spring 2021. So we built in a 14-day quarantine period. We're still, I think, looking at what each of the countries that we're offering programs in are doing in terms of requiring quarantine. But for spring, we're building in a contingency for quarantine. So just be aware of that. That's why you'll see this program fees a little bit higher, because if there's a state mandated quarantine period, then we want to cover that and make sure students are doing the full quarantine before heading to campus. I was not aware of a bingo / raffle. That's excellent. You should all participate in that for sure.
Yeah, we just want to encourage students to participate in our sessions each day. So
Nice.
We had a little fun activity there.
Good stuff. Cool. All right, we have a few more minutes. So I'm happy to take other questions, or I can keep rambling on about various topics. Feel free to unmute yourself or drop those in the chat. While you're doing that, I'll show you a resource that it always takes students a little bit of time to find, but it's a really nice tool when you're doing financial planning for your study abroad experience. So at the bottom of each program page, if you find this area, this link to additional expenses, what our team has done here is just really put together a simple spreadsheet where you'll find estimated expenses for other things. So like your flight, what meals are like, visa expenses, things like that, that can help you, like I said, put together a budget as you approach your program. And it actually, on this tab of the spreadsheet, it breaks down our program fee and tells you what part of it is tuition and what part of it is accommodation, and then gives you the total program fee. But on this other tab for additional expenses, scroll down to Japan. So it highlights, what the visa is, recommended estimated miscellaneous funds to bring with you, books and supplies, meals, things like that. And these are all based on feedback we've received from students who have returned from these programs. So hopefully that's helpful as you work with the UCF Study Abroad team to create a budget and talk with your family through all of these decisions before you study abroad. Okay. Lorenzo asks, are there any graduate programs? Typically, our programs are really focused on undergrads. We don't have study abroad programs that are specifically geared towards graduate students. But like I said, the intern abroad program might be the only exception to that. That might be one that I could recommend, as well as the TEFL program. So if you're looking at gaining work experience or classroom experience, I'll look into those. And actually, I forgot to mention with the TEFL program, what's really neat is you actually gain a TEFL certificate through the program itself that can be used anywhere in the world. So once you've finished the program, you have your certificate, and then you can actually go and take that to language schools around the world, and you're certified to teach. And essentially, it's like a job certification. So we've had a lot of students do those types of programs, and then go on and either teach and earn a salary in that country or another country around the world. All right. I have 4 minutes left. There are 8 of you still here. So if you have questions, I would love to hear them. If not, before you head out, just know that we're always happy to help if you have questions as you build towards this decision to study abroad. And I know if you're attending this, you're probably thinking pretty hard about Japan. So we're doing our best during the pandemic to keep our website updated with COVID specific information. What's going on in each host country, how we're approaching that. So if you go to a program page, there's a tab for COVID-19 plan. If this will load, then I can show you. There you go. Okay, so I'll have the financial plan, this health and safety plan for that particular program. So I always recommend looking here. And certainly if your family members have any questions or things like that, this is a location where you can find details about our COVID care package and all of that. For Japan internships, who can you contact? I would always recommend, if you're interested in discussing things further, you can click this Get Info button at the top right-hand corner of our website. And that will connect you to one of our advising team, and you can talk through what might work for you in terms of planning for an internship program or any program. All right. Well, I think I will wrap it up unless there are any last minute questions. Thank you all very much for joining me for this session. I hope I did okay, having not personally been to Japan to discuss our programs around the world, and Just again, thank you for joining us. And like I said, remember, we're always happy to assist if you have any questions as you make your plans. Uh, Thank you all. Take care. Have a good rest of your week.